All right, we're back. Summertime quickly melting away, and for us hockey fans, we're okay with that, right? We're into August, and now Wooden Stick starts to really heat up as we get ready for training camp and anxiously await some of the moves I will be making here, specifically locking down that extension with Kirill Kaprizov. I get asked about it out at the racetrack dozens of times every day, including last night when we were out there racing. But no, it's a fun time of year to start to look forward to the season that's upon us. Whenever you hear the state fair and their dates circling around, which is now just weeks away, you know that hockey season literally isn't far away, and that's a good thing. So here on Wooden Sticks, we take great pride in bringing you as much information as possible and as many great guests as we can get. And today, we're going to have Mitch Helgerson on from the Minnesota Wild. He's a good friend of mine. He's the Chief Revenue Officer along with the Executive Vice President. He's in charge of a lot of different areas, but specifically on my end, on the broadcast side. And things are certainly changing, and there's going to be adjustments made, but you know that the Wild are going to be available, and they're going to be both on TV and radio on a regular basis, and it's going to be a great product. And I think it's a really fun team to kind of take a perspective look at here in August and see what, from a business side, you know, how Mitch sees things. Because, you know, remember, this is a year-round, never-ending project for guys like Mitch. And, you know, Matt Maka, who's been on the show before, we have a common ground where we all want the same thing. Everybody that's a fan of this team wants to see the ultimate, which is a run at the Stanley Cup. And I think they've got a roster right now that's coming together with the youth and the talent they've assembled to do just that. And you've seen signs of that even last year with the adversity they went through. There are signs all around us that this team is on the come. And it isn't just us here in Minnesota trying to sell Kool-Aid. I'm talking national pundits, people that are out there and respected. I have regular conversations via text or phone with people like Tony Granato and Eddie Olchuk. These are national, sharp hockey minds that are saying, Bill Guerin's got this thing pointed in the right direction. They are sitting on the precipice of what could be a really good run. They need some things to fall their way, but it'll be really interesting to hear Mitch Helgerson's perspective today. Just a really smart guy, a guy that's been around the block and knows what makes not just the hockey team work, but the business of hockey work. And there's a lot of business going on this year with World Juniors, with Hockey Day in Minnesota, with where this franchise is at. And we probably won't have time to dive into it, but aside from the new name, and it's going to be Grand Casino Arena, we're going to have to stop calling it the X, which is going to take an adjustment for everybody, I'm certain. I was lucky enough to be at a thing called the Capital Club. It's a lot like Dunkers in Minneapolis for all the business folk in St. Paul. Wayne Peterson, my hook there. I was fortunate enough to host a breakfast a couple days ago with both Tom Reed and Matt Macon. A big subject of the conversation in this setting was the renovation that is going to happen at some point to our beautiful arena. And I'll tell you, from traveling around the league now, this will be year 20 for me with the Wild. This building is still wonderful. It's as well kept as any arena in the league. But there are things that the Wild want to do and probably need to do if they're going to upgrade this building and if it's going to last another 25 years. It's hard to believe, 25-year anniversary this year. So they've got some things they have to get done. And I know that the initial push with the legislators didn't go the way that they wanted it to, but there are still a couple of avenues they're going to pursue. We'll get into that on shows down the road. Today, though, really looking forward to talking about Hockey Day Minnesota on the front end, the schedule that's been released and kind of some cool different aspects to the Wild schedule this season, and everything on the business side for the Minnesota Wild. That'll be with Mitch Helgerson, and that's coming your way after we shine a little light on the people that make this show go. And a hearty thank you to all the folks that have been out here from day one here on our show with the Talk North Podcast Network, starting with Minnesota Masonic Charities. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz. Of course, got to thank our friends at Onyx Maps and Onyx Fish.
The weather is warming up. That means it's time to put your augers away, and it's time to grab the boat. Let Onyx Fish help you find the next best bite. The Fish app offers the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your success. Use the Fish app to find new places to fish and sort lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potential. Onyx Fish also shows you hot spots, lake-by-lake regulations, and private and public land ownership information. Download Onyx Fish on the App Store or go to onyxmaps.com/fish to get more information about the app that is changing the game.
And, of course, our dear friends with Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. All right, we're back with Mitch Helgerson from the Minnesota Wild next here on Wooden Sticks. All right, we're back on Wooden Sticks, as always, recording from the Aquarius Home Services Studio. Super happy to be joined by my friend Mitch Helgerson from the Minnesota Wild. And Mitch, in the first segment, I mentioned to the listeners your official title, but I'd rather hear it from you, and I think the listeners would as well. Good morning, and what is it exactly that you do for the Minnesota Wild?
Yeah, good morning, Gorgie. Thanks for having me on. Good to connect after a longer off season, so ready to get back at it. Yeah, I'm Chief Revenue Officer here with the Wild, so I'm in charge of all team-based revenues, tickets, partnerships, premium, et cetera, et cetera. Also run our broadcast operations with in conjunction with our friends at FanDuel, including Mr. Kevin Gorg, and our radio operations. Kevin Fallness runs for us. In collaboration and partnership with iHeartMedia and KFan.
How long have you been with the Wild, Mitch?
Good question. It's approaching next summer will be 20 years.
You know, I've had the great opportunity to get to know you, and I had a chance to work a breakfast function this week with our dear friend Matt Maka, who's been on the show, and Tom Reed. And, you know, I think there's all kinds of ties when you find people that work in the game of hockey. But for guys like you and for Matt that have high-level jobs with this organization, I love that I know you well enough to see the hockey fan or the Wild fan side of you both. And, you know, Matt is a little more buttoned up than you are, but when you peel back the layers, the passion that you guys have for this team and wanting to see this team do well and craving, like all of us, the chance to see this team bring a Stanley Cup to the state of hockey. I think it's fascinating when you get to know people. And I don't think that's atypical. I think a lot of the people that we work with share that same passion.
It's the state of hockey, Gorgie. And as my boss, Matt Maka, says, it's not marketing BS. It's real. It's we live it, we breathe it. I'm a born and raised Minnesotan up in Alexandria. My brother played hockey growing up. A bunch of my friends played hockey. My son plays hockey out in Stillwater. So it's real, and it's a small world. I mean, it's a small network at the end of the day, even being known as the state of hockey. It's a pretty special place. A lot of special people, a lot of people that care deeply and passionately about the sport, and that's what makes it awesome. That's what makes it great here in the state of hockey.
And it's fun, the partnership we've had, and it's FanDuel now. It was Fox Sports North, but I always think of Hockey Day Minnesota and how it's all hands on deck from both sides, from the Wild, from our network, and it's that celebration of the game that brings us all together. And I think Minnesotans, they either have the history of playing the game themselves, they have a relative that's played. Everybody's connected through the game of hockey, and we have that winter weather that we all kind of rally around. And so now we have at least the matchup set for Hockey Day Minnesota 2026. We know we're going to be over in Hastings. I think it's going to be a spectacular venue. They've got that really cool rink Shane Hudella is in charge of. We got the new addition to Hockey Day, Mitch, with the Iowa Wild playing Milwaukee on Friday night. As you take a broad brush, landscape kind of look at Hockey Day this year, what excites you?
Yeah, I couldn't be more excited about Hastings. You mentioned Shane Hudella and United Heroes League. I think Hastings high school programs and the Hastings Youth Hockey Association. This thing could, every year it seems like the bar is raised and for Hockey Day, and I think this year the bar could be raised again. I think these guys are so far out in front of it. They're so excited about getting the event down in Hastings, and I think they're gonna kill it. It'll be great to have our Iowa team there for the first time. The AHL is pretty enthusiastic about getting an outdoor game being part of this kind of annual holiday of hockey in Minnesota now. And we're pretty pumped to have our AHL kids out there. Who knows is going to be on that team with all of the exciting prospects we have in this system right now. Who's going to be up in St. Paul playing for the big club and who's going to be down in Iowa. There'll be some exciting players to come down and watch for sure. And you put that with some of the awesome girls and boys high school teams and college games. This thing probably will definitely raise the bar again.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how these towns embrace this event. And every year, to your point, Mitch, it seems to get bigger and better. And when you add in a professional hockey game with the Iowa Wild on a Friday night, normally Saturday has the stage all to itself. But I'm going to argue this year that Friday might be just as big. And I think tickets are going to be extremely hard to come by for fans to get to either one of these. But I think Friday, with that professional game outdoors and kind of that national spotlight, I'm really, really excited to see that aspect of it. And then, for me, it's the venue. It's the city coming together and the months of preparation. And, Hastings has been now for a couple of years planning for this. And so when you get there day of and you see the magic kind of play out right in front of you, we've had so many great Hockey Day venues over the years, but I think people kind of learn year by year what works, what doesn't work, and what needs to happen. And, what I love, Mitch, is whenever we're at the venue each particular year, you have that group that's on deck and they're walking around and experiencing Hockey Day kind of as fans and kind of taking a notebook approach to, all right, we're going to do this, but we're going to up this, we're going to change that. And then to your point, it feels like every year they try to one-up each other.
Yeah, it's something else. You get these segments of people that come to these events, and I have to say too, like, this doesn't happen without our partners at FanDuel. Back in the day, Matt Maka, Mike Diamond made this thing happen. I don't know how many years ago it was, no Gorgie up in Baudette. But There's been some really cool settings, home and field a couple years back. The partnership between Mankato High Schools and Mankato Youth, along with Minnesota State Mankato University, that was really something else too. Warroad was fantastic last year. So you see these people that, preparing for the upcoming year. You see people now that it's like an annual pilgrimage. Wherever it's at, they come. Every year they're going to come to the events and make a trip out of it. And then it's just the local folks that, you're right, there's so much pride that putting this event on, and it is a passion project. It takes some real work for the local organizing committee to put this thing on. But I've got to believe year in and year out, we hear how rewarding it was. And frankly, at the end of the day, there is probably a lot of resources that they generate from this to benefit their youth hockey and their high school hockey programs. It can be a real shot in the arm if they have a project earmarked for that they have really tried to struggle to get over the hump. These types of events have been really instrumental in helping these local communities and hockey in these local communities. Plus, to be on the big stage of FanDuel with the Wild is it's really a pretty remarkable event.
And this year, Saturday, January 24th, will be the big day over at Hockey Day Minnesota 2026 in Hastings, and we get treated to the Wild taking on the two-time Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers that night at 8:00 in St. Paul, which is a nice segue for us, Mitch, to talk about the schedule release, which happened a couple weeks ago. I look forward to it every summer, mapping out all these big matchups the Wild are going to have. We are 6 weeks away from their first preseason tilt, September the 21st up in Winnipeg. And we're almost to the day 2 months away from opening night in the NHL for the Minnesota Wild, October the 9th, down in St. Louis against the Blues. What struck me, Mitch, when I saw the schedule is a couple things. We knew that the big road trip after the holidays was coming with World Juniors. But once again, it's a road-heavy schedule to start the season. I looked at that start again, where 6 of the first 8 games are away at places like Dallas, Washington, the Rangers, New Jersey. Not an easy schedule early, but I think, if you watch the way John Hines and his coaching staff attacked that first month last year, I thought it was pivotal into helping the Wild really overachieve with all the injuries they had in that season.
Yeah, it's that's kind of been the what's happened the last few years is I give Billy and John credit. They're not afraid to start on the road. They don't mind that one bit. This year it's going to be a little different. We have that big road trip to start with in this 25th anniversary season for the Wild, which will be special in itself, I think. But it really starts to even out in the first 2 months. There's plenty of games coming up in October and especially in November, a lot of home games. Because of the, I don't know if I'd call it an unbalanced schedule, but for us, it's not just Grand Casino Arena that's going to host the World Juniors this year, which will be an awesome event in itself. But we have the Olympic break coming up in February. And so it really does compress the remaining schedule for us at home more than any other season. And so there's some unique things to the schedule. We have more games in November than we typically have in the past few years. We also have a lot of back-to-back weekends. We don't see a lot of back-to-back home games, period, in the NHL. But for us this year, we have a lot of back-to-backs on Saturday and Sunday, which will be unique for us. And I think it's a unique opportunity for fans, too, especially from outside the market, to maybe come down and see a couple of games, catch a couple of superstars from other teams. And you mentioned having Hockey Day against Florida. The one time Florida's coming to town, it'll be on Hockey Day. That should be a great one. That should be an awesome one. And then to play Columbus on opening night, after we open in St. Louis, October 11th, we come home on a Saturday night to play Columbus, who we came into the league with together 25 years ago, and against former coach Dean Evison. That was a pretty good surprise team last year too. That should be a fun opening night for us.
Yeah, a little extra special with the 25-year anniversary of these teams coming in to the league, and of course having Dean Evison back. And I'm glad you brought up the back-to-back sequences, because there are always silver linings to having that big Olympic break. And I looked at a couple here, both Thanksgiving and Christmas, when people have relatives in town and they're willing to maybe travel to spend a weekend in the Twin Cities. Thanksgiving offers the Wild fans a chance to come to our traditional game on Black Friday afternoon, the 28th at 2:30, and then you come right back Saturday against the young and speedy Buffalo Sabres on Saturday the 29th. So that's a back-to-back home situation, which Mitch, we rarely see.
Yeah, we get to see it a few times this year, all the way into March. I think we have one as well. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be unique. But yeah, Thanksgiving and around the holidays, around December, these are huge games for us. We look forward to them every year. We knew when we really raised our hand to host World Juniors this year that we were going to lose a lot of those holiday games. And so we have a few games right before the break, which I think can scratch that itch a little bit. But the ones between Christmas and New Year's, that we won't have those this year, which is a bit of a bummer for the Wild team. But we're so excited to be hosting World Juniors. I think the state of hockey is going to come out in force for those games, hosting all the U.S. games at Grand Casino Arena and the medal round at the arena as well. I think that'll fill the void for a lot of folks. And there's a lot of games that I think will be priced differently for those types of games. But if you want to bring some kids out, bring a family out, I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for people to see some really cool hockey and some prospects in the arenas around that time of year too.
Yeah, the cool thing for the World Juniors is we talked about Hockey Day getting bigger and better. This thing is nuts. I think Canada had figured this out years ago, and now with the success of Team USA here recently, we're starting to figure out in the States just how special this World Juniors tournament is. And it is really a training ground for future stars in the National Hockey League. And we're going to see that play out this year with a guy like Zeev Boyum. We already have guys like Brock Faber and Matt Boldy on this roster. And I think hockey fans understand that players like Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby and all those superstars started somewhere and had a chance to play on this stage. And it's the world's best young talent they have to offer. And so I'm fascinated with how the Twin Cities market is going to rally around the World Juniors. I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to crush it here. And I think it's going to be a unique opportunity I'm so glad you mentioned families, for young kids to start to see the future stars that the league has to offer. It is an incredible couple weeks of hockey, and people are just going to dive in, I think, and really love what this tournament means.
Yeah, I hope so. I think so too. I fully expect that. It's a once in how many year opportunity for us to host here. So I hope people do come out and be able to see it. It is a pretty special tournament. If somebody's been there before, again, we talked about pilgrimages for Hockey Day. People will so many people make the trip for wherever this is at, whether it's over in Scandinavia or in Canada or in the US. So I think there's plenty of people that are going to come into town. You'll see it. It's kind of like when you go to the Frozen Four. People wear their jerseys of their countries. Frozen Four, they wear their jerseys of their home school, whether they're represented in the Frozen Four or not. It just makes for a pretty electric atmosphere for events like this around hockey.
And I'm really excited for the Twin Cities to host all the different people that are going to come into town. You know, Canada is going to travel a bunch, and I think a lot of these teams bring in hundreds of people to support their teams. And so I think and we had Tom Reed at this breakfast the other day, like Tom Reed's Hockey City Pub. You think of McGovern's and all the places that have been right around Wild headquarters here, and how that's going to be 2 weeks of, it's kind of like the state tournament brings all those people to St. Paul every year for both the boys and the girls, but this is going to be 2 weeks. It's almost like a state tournament on steroids, where you're going to have all these people in St. Paul enjoying the hockey, but also enjoying the festivities around the rink. It's going to be a real boom for the cities here, and I think that's going to be a big part of the story as well.
Yeah, I do. This is going to be a great year of hockey. I think we're so excited, optimistic about the Wild season to see some of these younger kids that we mentioned before. You just kind of listed them all off. Add in Daniil Yurov and Liam Ogren and the goalie, Jesper Wallstedt. I mean, I think there were some folks that we would even say we were disappointed with how free agency and trades went down this year. We were really hoping for some super exciting news, and the way this all played out, it didn't play out the way that we kind of expected. But there are so many. I mean, this roster won't be the same with how many kids are trying to make this roster is what our guess is. And between World Juniors and we get to the end of the season with high school tournaments, we get to the regular Wild season and hopefully a run for playoffs with what this team could look like, a new look team, and having Kirill still lead the team. It's a pretty exciting year of hockey that I think we're looking forward to.
Well, you're a great hockey mind, Mitch, because you stole my thunder. My final segment of our conversation here this morning was going to focus on a handful of those players you just read off, and I want to, and I'm still going to put you on the spot. I think of Juracek, I think of Yurov, I think of Wallstedt, Ogren, and Zeev Boyum. I've got 5 players here that to me all have the potential this season, the one that's directly in front of us that starts here next month, to have a breakout season. And if you were, let's just pretend this was a horse race at Canterbury and I was in the paddock and I had talked about each of these players, you know them up and down and quite well. You've got a couple of forwards in Yurov and Ogren. You've got Zeev and Juracek both waiting to break out on the back end. And you've got that goalie, Jesper Wallstedt, who we've kind of been waiting to see break out. And this, goalies take a little longer, right? So of these 5, if you were going to put your money on just one of these 5 to be the biggest to break out, and we may have multiple guys break out this year, but who makes the biggest splash of those 5 in your eyes?
Oh God, I've worked for the Wild in the NHL long enough to be careful with questions like this. I am not a great hockey mind. my responsibility is trying to sell tickets, not put a team together. But I'm excited about all 5. I gotta say, I mean, you've listened to the pundits. You've read Scott Wheeler from The Athletic, who listed our prospect group as the second best in the NHL last year, due to a lot of the guys you just listed off. I think we saw in World Juniors last year that Zeev could be special. It's amazing that Billy and Judd Brackett were able to get him where they were able to get him in the draft. I think he just continues to grow, and I think the sky's the limit for what his skill set is. Like, people, even at development camp, like the players he's playing with, they struggle to explain what he does out there, because he does things differently. It's kind of like when Creel first came over, and you talk to the coaches and you talk to the veteran players when Creel came over, and he does things that people just don't do, like how the puck comes off Creel's stick. It's special, and so we'll see. I just think there's so much opportunity for these kids, and and what the potential for these kids could be. I'm really excited about Yurov. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of him. It's hard to see the kids that come over from the KHL. Like, we didn't know much about Kirill. We knew of him, but we haven't seen a lot of him when he came over. And Yurov set records over there for either under 20 or under 19 players. So I think we're really excited to see what he can do. And I think they're going to get opportunities. I think Juracek and Zeev will see what types of opportunities they get if Jonas Brodin starts the season on the shelf, which it sounds like he will. We're going to need somebody to step up. And on offense, we've been talking about this for a long time. We need somebody to score goals besides Kirill. And last year we scored enough goals to make the playoffs. I think we did really well in the first round. I think we were disappointed how that ended. Maybe felt like we deserved better. But this year, this is the year. Now it's time to take a step forward. And these kids, for this team to take a step forward, the kids in totality and aggregate, they have to be a driving force to enable this team to take a step forward.
I think you answered it really well, and I think you hit the nail on the head with Zeev. I think he's the betting favorite because he's still 19. He got his feet wet. And when I talked to players like Marcus Foligno and Matt Zuccarello last year during the playoffs, after practice days at Tria, they were blown away. And trust me when I say this, specifically, a guy like Matt Zuccarello does not get blown away easily. And they were both like, okay, this kid's different. Like, to your point, Mitch, he's doing things that young kids are not supposed to be able to do. And I think what Wild fans need to remember is this kid is a teenager, and the upside here is remarkable. And what he did on that stage at the World Juniors when he looked like the best blue liner on the ice from anywhere, like, this kid is special. And so I would pick the exact same player, but I'm telling you, I think Jesper Wallstedt is a guy that's going to really have a big season. I think there are a lot of reasons for that. We're going to talk about it throughout the winter on our broadcast. We're going to also talk about it here on Wooden Sticks. But I think the young goaltender is ready to make a big stride forward, and I think he's set up for success finally this year. I think he got hung out to dry in Iowa last year. Not his fault, not even the guys in Iowa's fault. We had a remarkable amount of injuries with the Wild, which forced them to take a lot of those players from Iowa and bring them to St. Paul. But I know you're on a short schedule. I promised we'd have you out at a certain time. We have reached that time. We're going to circle back, Mitch. I'd love to have you on again this winter and talk about how things are percolating with the World Juniors and Hockey Day Minnesota. Bottom line is, like you, I can't wait to watch this thing play out. And thanks for having that chat today.
Yeah, anytime, Gord. You know me. Anything you need, let me know. And look forward to seeing you around the rink and probably on a couple of trips this year. Can't wait for it.
Going to be a lot of fun. We call Mitch a Palooza. He's the great Mitch Helgerson from the Minnesota Wild. We're whetting your appetite for the start of the season, which is right around the corner. And so is our final segment, which is coming up next here on Wooden Sticks. All right, nice of Mitch to join us this morning. He had a meeting he had to get to, and I tried to stay as on time as humanly possible. I think I got him out a minute late, but still with time to get to his next function. And, you can sense the excitement, even though Mitch is a really low-key guy. He's kind of, a lot like Matt Maka, very, very sharp and very buttoned up. But knowing both those guys as well as I do, you could sense the passion that he has, the excitement that he has, like we all do, to see some of these young players and to see this team take a big step forward this year, which certainly is I think very, very possible. And I think there's some excitement around the schedule and how that's going to play out with World Juniors taking over the Twin Cities for a couple of weeks directly after Christmas and that holiday break for the hockey team. What we didn't get into is something I want to touch on right now briefly, is with the World Juniors and hockey fans here in this market getting paid. The Wild pay a price, and every year we saw the Ottawa Senators last year, and they overcame it. They made the playoffs, but it's going to be a tough road trip. The Wild have that Christmas break with no hockey activities on the, the 24th, 25th, and 26th. And then the 27th, you gather at Signature Air, you fly out to Winnipeg, and you play that night on December the 27th. And it's a road trip that lasts 13 days, a total of 7 games. You're going to go to Winnipeg, Vegas, San Jose, Anaheim, back-to-back games in LA against the Kings, and then you close it out in Seattle. So tough games for sure, especially when I look at Vegas, LA. Anaheim and Seattle both look like teams that are going to give you everything you want. But those back-to-back games in downtown Los Angeles, it is not back-to-back days. There's a day off in between. So if Wild fans wanted to take a post-holiday trip and head out west, get into some warm weather, warmish weather that time of year, but certainly better weather than we're likely going to have, and wanted to take in a couple Wild games, they're going to play 2 games within 3 nights in LA against the Kings. So that'll be a lot of fun. But that trip, that 13 days, that 7 games comes at kind of a critical time in the season where you're trying to really put yourself in position for that push in the second half. So definitely circle that trip as one of the real pivot points on the schedule. Mitch and I talked about, what I think is a very difficult start to the season with 6 of the first 8 away. And then you've got that pesky road trip where you're going to go to places like Dallas, Washington, the New York Rangers, Jersey. That's a really hard trip. Washington's in there. So yeah, it's upon us. We're just a couple weeks away from the State Fair. We're a little over, 5-6 weeks away from preseason hockey starting. It's hard to believe, but that's going to lead us to a lot of great content for the show here. And while we're on the subject of great content and shows here on Talk North, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that I started a new project this week with the great Randy Shaver, who is well respected in this market for so many reasons, but his knowledge of football is pretty damn great. And so we're going to be doing a fantasy football show here on Talk North. It's called the Fantasy Huddle. In fact, we just released our first show this week, where we kind of dive into the history of fantasy football. We're both on the back 9 of life, so we've got some real history, decades of playing fantasy football. And this show is going to be unique in that it's not just going to be about the season-long fantasy. We're going to cover daily fantasy. We're going to cover prop bets, and we're going to be up to date on everything that's going on and the trends in the market. We're not going to pretend to be Paul Charchian, because as Randy said on our first show, that's the Godfather, and he can't be duplicated, but we're disciples of that Godfather. And we've got some great takes and some strong opinions and some unique ways of doing things in terms of fantasy football. And we're going to give you, I think, different information than you'll get in other outlets. And so looking forward to that. Find it the same place you find Wooden Sticks here, the Talk North Podcast Network. It is called the Fantasy Huddle, and it starts this week, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we're going to give you a lot of great information. That's it for today. That's it for Hockey Talk. Ping me at Gorgomatic21. I had someone send me a great tweet in the last 24 hours requesting we get Joe Micheletti on the show. The Micheletti brothers were just celebrated over at the U of M for their incredible careers wearing the maroon and gold, and Joe just retired after an incredible, and I mean awesome, career in broadcasting. So he's on my short list to have on Wooden Sticks here in the near future. And anything you want, again, just ping me at Gorgomatic21. And as always, there would be no show without you. So thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend.